I'd like to tell you a story about an organization facing a massive transformation. And in that story, I'd like to focus on the leaders who were trying to lead that transformation, what they were doing, what help they needed, and how some of that was provided to get them to really lean in and find their spot in that transformation. Now, this was a transformation with a big, bold, large font, italicized capital T. It was a massive transformation. They were looking at changing their model, their services, their products, their market. It was huge. And it was unprecedented for this company to be doing that. And this was a company of some size and some reputation as well. We got together a group of executives, and we were sitting in a kind of windowless conference room in Paris. God knows why you'd have a windowless conference room when you're in Paris, but that's what we were in. And we were sitting there with this audience of executives who were doubtful, suspicious, unsure, a little angry, probably even frightened by all the change that was happening, and trying to bring them on board and get them engaged from what had been some real resistance to the whole transformation approach and the whole transformation goals, really. So we sat there in that room in Paris and we started to have a discussion. And I had with me two little things to help. I had my little donkey and my little elephant. So with these two things, what could go wrong? Let me tell you a story about a different animal. A flashback to over 20 years ago, sitting in a conference room in Montreal. I was a newly minted executive in an organization, probably the youngest leader in the room. And we were having a really serious discussion about some things we had to make decisions on. And at that moment, I realized that there was something that needed to be said. There was kind of an elephant in the room. But being in Canada, we didn't talk about the elephant in the room. They talk about the moose because it's Canada. And the facilitator we had this little stuffed moose and had little two fingers in it so she could walk it around. And she said, if you need to say something that has to be said, grab the moose and put the moose on the table and let's talk about it. And so I knew there was something needed to be said. I think we all knew it needed to be said. No one was saying it. And I felt I just wasn't being true to myself if I didn't say it. So with no small amount of trepidation, I reached over and I said, can I have the moose? And I took the moose and I put it down on the table and I spoke. I can't even remember what I said. It was so long ago. But I remember the moment of asking for the moose, putting it on the table and putting myself out there because she had made that way for me to do that with that moose. Let's flash back to sitting in Paris now with the group of executives. I brought along my elephant and I said, we're in America, actually, we're not in America, we're in Paris. I probably should have picked something else. But I used the elephant in the room metaphor and that worked. I said, if you need to put the elephant on the table, grab the elephant, put it on the table. And I've got this little donkey. And if you feel like you have a question you want to ask that you're uncertain if it'll, well, make you look like an ass, then you grab the donkey and it will protect you. That wasn't met with a lot of response, except for a couple of people were, I think, looking at the ceiling. I'm not quite sure what they were looking at, but their eyes were rolling back in their head. Nonetheless, we went forward. And as we moved into the dialogue, at one point, there was a pause, and one of the leaders looked and he said, okay, give me the donkey. Give me the donkey. And he grabbed the donkey kind of in this death grip. And he sat there for a second. He looked down. And he said, I really don't understand what platform as a service means in this context and how we're going to make that our business model. And he held onto that donkey. He threw it out there. He waited. There was a brief pause. And then one of the executives from the digital side of the business who helped lead this transformation looked at him and said, I got to tell you, that's a great question. It's a question I had for a long time that I really struggled with. And I think I've worked that through now. What I'd like to do, if you don't mind, is kind of share a little bit of my journey and see if that's useful. And at that moment, the grip on the donkey relaxed, he put it down, and a really good conversation ensued. And suffice to say, over the course of the day we were together and the course of other days together in conference rooms, around the world, whether it be Chicago or Dubai, we had similar conversations and people were able to really talk through and think through what was going on. And we helped them, with our little toys and with some encouragement and setting up a framework for them to have that conversation. I tell you that story because one of the things we love to do is to really help shepherd change along. Now, I'm not saying that the answer to all your problems lies in stuffed animals, although it might. But what I am saying is that there is a way to shepherd people along, to bring them along together, and to get them moving in the same direction. And if you're finding in your organization that you've got change and transformation that you're leaning into, but you're having a hard time really pulling your leaders in together to get the flock going in the same direction, then we'd love to hear from you, and we'd be happy to talk to you at any point in time. Thanks a lot.